talk is money, honey. All we talk is money. All we talk is money. It's like bees to the honey. Honey, money, honey, money, honey. It's the SOSCAST, baby.
And we're back. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here at America Fest, Turning Point USA. We have a businessman in the house, okay? We have a businessman in the house. We've talked politics today. We've talked dating. We've talked relationships. We haven't done a lot of business, but we want to talk a little money. We want to talk a little business. So we got Michael Seifert in the house, okay? He's the founder of Public Square, which is an online marketplace that caters to conservatives, free thinkers, anti-woke agenda. Michael, welcome to Valuetainment, my friend.
Welcome,
Thank
Michael.
you, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Michael, I'm going to shake you there too, buddy.
you.
Thanks for
Thank
all
you.
you do.
Michael, I'm a big fan of the white shirt, T-shirt, blue jacket.
thank you.
You know, you're still in my luck. So, Michael, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you started Public Square and how it's going.
Well, we started Public Square because we were really frustrated, and thankfully the frustration turned into a solution. So it was January of 2021. I'd been watching a decade, really, of companies embracing ESG and DEI to the detriment of their own consumer base, to the detriment of their own market capitalizations, and to the detriment, more broadly, of the entire United States economy. These really Marxist ideas infiltrated the U.S. economy, moving the economy from shareholder to stakeholder capitalism.
Yep.
And in turn, the people that bore the consequence of that negatively were small businesses, because they don't get the heavy government subsidies, they're not focused on ESG, they don't get the financial rewards from the big banks that are giving loans based upon your ESG score. Small businesses have just been decimated. And for us as a consumer, so there's the business problem, on the consumer side, I felt like our options to spend money with companies that didn't hate me were becoming fewer and far between. So you see Targets and Bud Lights and all these different examples of companies that have taken aggressive political turns, and in turn, they've alienated millions of consumers like myself that do not want to be lectured about gender and their vaccine status and things like that when I'm just trying to engage in a consumer purchase. So this idea turned into, well, what if we actually took that frustration, we put on a list of paper a group of businesses that we know of in our local community that are owned by great people, they share our values, a lot of them are veteran-owned, they serve our community, they're not interested in weaponizing their political beliefs against us, and then we'll know with blessed assurance that we're funding companies that we feel proud to fund. These are small businesses, they love the country, the Constitution, and the values that it protects. That list was in January of 2021. Less than 3 years later now, we've created the world's largest marketplace of its kind, over 75,000 business vendors that have all been vetted in alignment with the core values of the platform, all different industries. We hit 1 million members on our platform faster than Twitter, Airbnb, Spotify. It's
Incredible.
An incredible journey.
And your online marketplace, you're going against the elephant in the room, Amazon.
We are indeed.
You know, if you go to relentless.com, do you know what website pulls up?
No.
Amazon.
Oh,
They own
Interesting.
relentless.com.
Oh, weird, Michael.
I just taught that. So they're relentless. You know, obviously Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post.
Yep.
He owns, what was it, Blue Origin? The you know, competing
space.
with, he's going to space, he's going to markets, he's going to media. How do you see yourself trying to compete with Amazon in this marketplace? Because they're relentless.
They are, and I actually admire it about Jeff. Credit to where credit's due. He's built a behemoth, and it largely is because of his relentless attitude. Now, Amazon has taken a lot of unethical approaches as to how they got there, which I'm not a fan of, and I obviously don't appreciate their market positioning. They are one of the companies that have really bought into the ESG craze, alienating their customers in the process, and they've sold a lot of what made our country special on the altars of cheap convenience, which I'm also not a fan of. But when we're talking a company that's relentless, you got to give credit to Amazon. How are we competing? Well, I think a few things are important to note. There's an entire network. If you're interested in finance, if you're interested in business, you always look for unaddressed markets. Where is there a group of consumers that have a hunger for something that's not currently being met? If you look in the United States today, and this has been best exemplified by the successes of things like Sound of Freedom this summer, eclipsing box office hits that Disney's producing on 1/10 of the budget. You look at songs like Richmond, North of Richmond, top of the Apple charts with no previous chart experience. And then you look at the failures of some companies over the summer, like Bud Light and Target and Ben & Jerry's and some of these entities. And you learn that there's clearly a group of consumers that are not being addressed and their needs are not being heard or met in our economy. If you quantify that and you look at, okay, people that love freedoms, they love the Constitution, they value the tenets of our Constitution that have made our country special. If you try to quantify that financially, one way you can get there is by looking at election data. So our marketplace is not purely conservative consumers. purely conservatively run businesses, but it's not purely conservative consumers. 26% of our members actually are Democrats. So we've got some diversity on that front. But if you look and said we were just catering to conservative consumers, if you go to 2020 elections, you would see that Republican or conservative voters in 2020 made up of $7 trillion in GDP. That's how much GDP they represented. 7 trillion GDP is the third largest economy in the world by GDP. And can you name me even one major company today that's trying to address those folks, that's even trying to talk to them? You can't.
I can't.
You can't. Maybe Hobby Lobby, maybe Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
You can't name one company that's a major Fortune 100 company that's trying to address that market. So for us, I see this massive untapped opportunity. So when we're talking about how do you reach the scale and Amazon's reach, well, we have this new frontier that's opened up in front of us where there are 100 million plus Americans that are hungering for products that will serve their needs with the classic meritocracy and excellence that built our economy behind them. They're not interested in DEI and ESG. They're not interested in weaponizing their views against you. These are salt of the earth, family-owned and operated, independently run small businesses that give you an opportunity to break from this matrix that we've been experiencing and embrace these classic liberties. That economy experience, I'll finish with this, is not only incredibly liberating. Like, I have a great amount of purpose, I feel, in what we're building. Our consumers and businesses do too. We're helping the small business community of America. It's also lucrative. And this market has been unaddressed for so long. So when we can actually capture that market, provide them quality products and services in a seamless experience, and then generate revenues such that we can compound our ability to reach this group at a bigger, our TAM's 100 million people. And so I look to the future and I say, what Amazon has ignored, we will actually embrace. What Target has ignored, we will embrace. And my hope and my prayer is that as we do that, not only does the network effect continue to grow on itself such that our customer acquisition cost is low, it's been a very grassroots movement, but my hope also is that more and more great businesses are built underneath this parallel economy.
Yeah, I mean, this is the foundation of the free market economy.
Exactly.
And free market capitalism. You saw a void in the marketplace. Let's just fill that void.
Yep.
And that's what's happening right now. You talked earlier about the difference between shareholder and stakeholder capitalism, right? Was those the terms you used?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. So explain that, because we all know what a shareholder is. You buy a share or stock in a company, and the sole intention is you want the stock to go up and you can make some money. Stakeholder's a little bit different, though.
It is.
Explain that.
Well, shareholder capitalism was what our economy was built upon. It was the idea that a business should be in the interest of, or in the business of serving the interests of their consumers and shareholders. That's it. Maybe employees, you can make that case as well. That shifted to stakeholder capitalism, where you saw some notable economists, financial professionals in the 80s that were real wrapped up in politics start saying things like, well, we should factor in external stakeholders as well. It's not enough just to care about our shareholders and our customers. We also have to think about the climate and marginalized communities and our commitments to equity. These buzzwords started popping up, and it was supposed to be, in their minds, this virtuous play to expand the reach of their business's impact. What happened, though, is that it created this vicious cycle where a business would gain any real stature and then weaponize their profits in a political fashion to serve the bureaucratic entities that were in power. So when you have major banks, the Jamie Dimons of the world, giving financial favors and loans based upon your ESG score, that's become the last thing from virtuous. You're not even factoring in your shareholders. You're not even factoring in your responsibility to serve your customers. You've become a political bureaucratic entity whose financial incentives are now wrapped up not in servicing your customers, but instead in increasing a political agenda. It happened gradually and then suddenly. Many people just heard about ESG in the last year or two, but the reality is it's gradually been building as an ideology rooted in stakeholder capitalism for the last 4 decades.
Yeah,
that's what we're up
if
against.
you're just finding out about it, it's a little too late. But, you know, they say that, you know, buy the rumors, sell the news. It's in the news now, but you've been hearing the rumors, you know, for years now. The big dogs out there, the big money managers out there, the BlackRocks of the world, what, $10 trillion AUM? State Street, right? Vanguard, all north of $5 trillion. What happens is, and teach me something here, Vinny's gonna start a Roth IRA, right? I've been telling him to start a Roth IRA. People are investing in their 401ks. They're not looking under the hood. They're like, dude, I can barely spell 401k, okay? But they start investing in these Vanguard funds, State Street, BlackRock, whatever it is, Nationwide, whatever it is. And all they're looking to do is put some money in, have their money grow, have a nice retirement. But it turns out, and actually Vivek Ramaswamy, first time that he was on PBD podcast, about a year ago, probably before he even announced his candidacy, he wrote the book Woke Inc. He was telling me that, like, this is what's going on. They're doing this, ESG, DEI, and trying to explain all these certain things and where they're investing their money. And I was like, yeah, I don't think most people understand what's even happening. He's like, no, they need to understand. I mean, Vivek has obviously gone massively viral. Everybody knows Vivek these days. But at the times before he declared his candidacy, I was like, I don't, number one, 50% of America doesn't invest. Zero. Done. No. 50% doesn't have a retirement account.
Which is another problem.
It's a whole other problem. We can get into a whole personal finance dilemma that's going on here. But the other 50%, dude, my mom has a 401k. My mom doesn't know what's going on in her 401k. I would say that it's almost like the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule right there. 80% got no clue what the F's going on. 20% most likely, but of that 20%, really it's the top 1% that really understands their money. And I had to learn the hard way when I didn't understand any money, and then I started making money and I had to do this. So what are the dangers of all these companies investing in this ESG and prioritizing, social equity, DEI, inclusion, all these problems? What are the dangers of that, and how does that affect someone's bottom line on their personal pocketbook?
Well, the most evident short-term dangers are the collapse of excellence. So when you're prioritizing DEI and ESG, and as a reminder, DEI is diversity, equity, inclusion. ESG is environmental, social, and governance. Two different wings of the same bird, really. And the short-term effects of both of those ideologies are that companies will take their eye off the ball. So for example, First Republic, big bank that collapsed last year.
Right.
Silicon Valley Bank, even more notable. Silicon Valley Bank, here's a great example, contributed over $70 million to Black Lives Matter. Like those are
$70 million.
Those $70 million we'd love to have back, right? Like
now you're out of business.
So there are problems like that where businesses will take their eye off the ball. They'll prioritize progressive politics instead of their actual shareholder interests. Another good example is Target. Target this past summer had their first quarterly earnings miss in 6 years in response to their Pride Month debacle. Well, the last time Target missed their quarterly earnings 6 years ago was the bathroom dilemma. If you guys remember that, it was the trans bathroom dilemma where Target was advocating. So the point is, Target had a lesson that they should have learned 6 years ago, which is that you're a company focused on providing a retail experience. Don't get into this progressive politics. You're going to get bit.
Losing proposition.
Exactly. Well, they did it. They didn't learn their lesson. They came back around and did it 6 years later, and it's the investors' value of their investment that was hit in the process. Their shareholders were the one negatively affected by this, not just how they're harming the moral fabric of our country. So that's why their stock got downgraded twice. My encouragement to folks always is, hey, if you're a shareholder in one of these companies, like, bind with other shareholders, figure out where there's class action lawsuits, because these people should not be able to continue to harm your value based upon a proposition that they haven't clearly stated to you. That's the short term. Is that they lose excellence in their company, that hurts their value of their company, and it hurts the investors in the process. The longer-term, more existential threat to this is planes falling out of the sky. That's the example I give often. And the reason I give that example is United Airlines came out 2 years ago and they said, from now on, our hiring practices are not going to be focused on meritocracy. They're not going to be focused on excellence. They're going to be focused on gender and skin color.
Right.
We are going to make sure that 50% of our pilots look like this by the time we hit 2030. The problem with that is, do you really care about the color of your pilot?
No, you just want to land safely.
I don't give a damn color. I don't listen. Yeah. Whoever's the best and has the most hours, get him up there. Not like, hey, listen. Well, we had to fit a status quo, and so is up in the. No. I'm not going on the plane.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But so let me ask you a question, Michael. So all this ESG, this push, all the DEI. What is their main Larry Fink? All these guys. What are they afraid of? What's their goal in all this? What the hell are they doing? It's not working.
No.
What are you even doing,
What
dude?
are you doing?
Larry told us this summer his goal is to curb behaviors. He said it.
Curb. I remember that.
Behaviors.
What kind of behaviors is he looking to curb?
Behaviors like mine, ones that would embrace freedom and thinking freely. The idea that I would believe in individualism and the rights and responsibility of a citizen to exercise their individuality in a way that's not collectivist in nature. I'm not going to be controlled by anyone. Not a government. I answer to one person, and it's a higher power, and his name's not Larry Fink.
Yeah.
These guys hate that ideology because it makes them not God. It pulls them off a pedestal. I think most of this ESG, social engineering at the top, some people are really genuine about it, and it's this weird God complex they have. Other people, it's they brought a diversity officer into their boardroom, and they're kind of being co-opted, right? Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's rooted in nothing that has to do with providing valuable business. BlackRock's a great example. BlackRock's the most valuable asset manager in the world, and yet if you look at what Larry talks about 9 times out of 10 in the media, it's about social engineering. It's not about providing more value. It's not about how to advance our economy. It's definitely not nationalistic, which is another problem because he should primarily focus on the U.S. economy. It's where the bulk of his assets are, and instead he's adopted this sort of Klaus Schwab talking about the global responsibility. Yeah. It's a total mess. And so the inspirations are, there's a myriad of them, but at the end of the day, the result's always the same. And it's why ESG portfolios right now are underperforming the market time and time again. I'm hoping that people will wake up and realize it's a losing game.
Michael, before we land this plane, so to speak, right?
Yeah, and we will land it, because we will.
Let's go.
Yeah.
You know, there's a large segment of our audience that isn't necessarily political, right? They're just like, look, bro, I'm trying to make some money. Trying to start a business. I'm trying to do my thing. I get it. Politics matters. We're about to be in 2024 election season. How old are you now?
28.
You're a young dude, bro. You're smart. You're savvy. You're entrepreneurial. Good for you. What's your biggest lesson out there to young guys out there that want to get better with money, that want to have a career, that want to make a difference? They don't want to get involved in the ESG, DI stuff. They just want to make some money. Yep. You know, you said that you grew up in Southern Cal,
from San Diego.
San Diego area. Yep. You were worked in for a private equity firm at one point. You know, whether it's understanding how money works, saving, investing, right? Just understanding markets, whether it's starting a business and taking a risk and just going for it. What have you learned? The good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to money and starting a business?
I would say that at the end of the day, if you go back to the basics, customer service, which has been completely forgotten about in this era. I mean, we've all felt that. We've felt the lack of customer service. We felt like we don't matter as the customers anymore. If you, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, go back to valuing your customer above and all, you'll experience a level of success that trumps your competitors just purely based upon that. Number 2, I would say another basic is like simple financial stewardship. There are a lot of very classic principles that don't look like gaming the system. It's just the basics. I want to make a profit. I want to make more money than I'm spending. That a lot of our economy is forgotten as well. I think we've all had a big wake-up call after the venture-backed era of the last 10 years where everything was about how sexy your company could be, and Sequoia Capital would come along and write a $200 million
Doesn't matter
check.
how profitable you are, what's going on, what your EBITDA is. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I'd say going back to the basics, we're a publicly traded company on the New York Stock Exchange. We went public this past summer. And,
congratulations.
Well, thank you. We came out the gates and said, we have a crazy idea. We're going to state it clearly. It's not this ultra glamorous new, I'm not going to use a bunch of innovative buzzwords. We're going back to basics. We're going to serve a network of consumers that have felt unaddressed with quality products, and we're going to do it in a way that gets profitable and sustains profitability as soon as possible, and here's the path to get there. Those simple statements feel antiquated, but they work. And so my encouragement to people is if you have an idea that you think will better a group of consumers and meet their needs that have currently been unaddressed, you got to run for it. Be crazy enough to actually do it. There was a million reasons we shouldn't have started Public Square, but we just dove in amidst the opposition. And if you go back to the basics and you keep the simple, I think the world is hungering for entrepreneurs like that right now.
It's the old KISS approach. Keep it simple, stupid, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, no, but right. I think to your credit, the reversion to the mean, equilibrium, everything has got, whether it's crypto that just people don't even understand, whether it's ESG and DEI and wokeism, and people are just like, what is happening right now? Getting back to basics, traditional values, traditional money, understanding how that works, I think that's going to win in the long run because that's proven. Yep. Some of this other stuff is completely unproven. Michael, look in that camera. Tell the people where to find you and what they want them to know.
You can head to publicsquare.com. We're the nation's largest marketplace of businesses that love the country, the Constitution, and the values that it protects, and they would love to serve you. If you want to support the small business economy in our country, publicsquare.com is where you can check it out. I'm on X, at @RealMichaelSeif, S-E-I-F, first 4 letters of my last name. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Of course, brother.
Thanks,
Thank
Mike.
Thank you for being here. Thank you,
thank
Michael.
you.
Thank you, Mike. Guys,
Thank you.